Have you ever been told that the most important work you do, the hardest work, the work that shapes human beings, is worthless? That because you don't get a paycheck for it, it doesn't count? What would you do if the person who said that was your husband, the father of your children, the man who'd promised to value you forever? While I'm out there making real money, all you do is play mom, he said. And then he left. My husband of 15 years walked away because I was just a mother. But here's what he didn't know. I had a little blog where I wrote about that meaningless motherhood. 3 years later, that blog became a multi-million-dollar company. And my ex-husband, he was calling, asking if I had any job openings. How much is motherhood worth? Can you put a price tag on the sleepless nights, the endless worries, the constant emotional labor of raising human beings? Society says no, that it's priceless, invaluable, beyond measure. But when my husband looked at me, he saw someone who contributed nothing, someone whose work had no value because it didn't come with a salary. He was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. Let me take you back to the night my marriage ended, to the moment when everything I thought I knew about my life shattered into pieces that would eventually reform into something I never could have imagined. It was a Thursday in March, unseasonably cold for Chicago. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner while simultaneously helping Lily with her homework, responding to Max's endless questions about dinosaurs, and trying to remember if I had scheduled the dentist appointment for next week. This was my life, a constant juggling act of 1,000 small tasks that somehow kept our family functioning. Robert came home late, which wasn't unusual. He'd been working longer hours for the past year, climbing the corporate ladder at his marketing firm. I'd been proud of him, supporting his career ambitions, even as it meant more solo parenting, more nights eating dinner alone with the kids, more weekends where I managed everything while he worked or networked. But when he walked through the door that night, something was different. The way he wouldn't meet my eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the resignation in his posture. "We need to talk," he said. The 4 words every spouse dreads. I sent the kids upstairs to play, my stomach already knotting with anxiety. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared thousands of meals, where we laughed and argued and made plans for our future. "I want a divorce." It's not about an argument. It's about the fundamental incompatibility of our lives. He pulled out a folder. He'd actually prepared a folder and set it on the table. "I've been thinking about this for a long time. We've grown apart. We want different things. It's time to be honest about that." Different things? Robert, we have children together. We have a home. We have 15 years of history. And in those 15 years, what have you accomplished? The question came out sharp, cutting. "Diana, be honest with yourself. While I've been building my career, advancing, making real money, what have you been doing?" I stared at him, not understanding. "I've been raising your children. I've been cooking every meal. I've been managing our household budget. I coordinate their school activities, their doctor's appointments, their play dates. I volunteer at their school. I support your career by doing everything, literally everything else. How is that nothing? Because it doesn't pay. He said it like it was obvious, like I was stupid for not understanding. Diana, in the real world, your value is determined by what you earn. You earn nothing. You contribute nothing financially to this household. I'm the one paying the mortgage, the bills, the kids' expenses, everything. What you do, anyone could do that. You're basically a live-in nanny that I can't fire. The cruelty of those words took my breath away. A live-in nanny he couldn't fire. That's what 15 years of marriage, 2 children, countless sacrifices had amounted to in his eyes. You wanted me to stay home, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. When Lily was born, you said it made sense for me to quit my job because your salary was higher. You said the kids needed me home. You said a lot of things. But Diana, that was 8 years ago. Lily's in 3rd grade now. Max is in 1st. They're in school all day. What are you even doing with your time? Where's the ambition? Where's the drive? You've just settled, become complacent, become boring. Each word was a knife, precise and devastating, but it was the word boring that struck deepest. I'd become boring to my own husband. The man I'd fallen in love with, the man I'd built a life with, looked at me and saw nothing worth keeping.
There's someone else, isn't there? I asked, suddenly certain he had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. Claire and I work together. She's ambitious, driven, interesting. She has goals beyond carpools and parent-teacher conferences. She makes me feel alive in a way you haven't in years. Claire. Of course there was a Claire. There was always a Claire. Younger, childless, free from the burdens of motherhood that had made me so boring. So that's it. You're leaving me for a woman from your office? You're destroying our family because I'm not ambitious enough for you? I'm leaving because we're not compatible anymore, because you stopped being a person and became just a mom. And honestly, Diana, I think you'll be fine. You'll get the house, child support, alimony. You can keep doing what you do best, making snacks and scheduling playdates, just without me around to support it financially. Support it financially? Anger was finally cutting through the shock. Robert, do you have any idea how much it would cost to hire someone to do what I do? A cook? A cleaner? A tutor? A personal assistant? A therapist for the kids when they need emotional support? If I was paid for my labor, I'd be making 6 figures. He laughed. Actually laughed. But you're not getting paid, Diana. That's the point. In the real world, you'd be worthless. You have no marketable skills, no current work experience, no network. You're a stay-at-home mom in a world that's moved beyond needing stay-at-home moms. That's not my fault. That's your choice. I wanted to scream at him, to throw something, to make him understand that every choice I'd made had been for our family, for our children, with his full support and encouragement. But looking at his face, cold, distant, already checked out, I realized he didn't care. He'd already rewritten our history to make himself the victim of my inadequacy rather than the beneficiary of my sacrifice. Fine, I said, my voice steady, despite the tears threatening to fall. Leave. But Robert, our children will know the truth. They'll know you left because you found them boring too, because family life wasn't exciting enough, because real love, The kind that shows up every day, that does the hard work, that sacrifices, that wasn't enough for you. Don't turn them against me. I won't have to. You're doing that yourself. I stood, needing distance from him, from his casual cruelty, from the wreckage of everything I believed about my marriage. Get out. Find a hotel. I'll talk to a lawyer tomorrow. He left that night, taking a suitcase and his laptop, and leaving behind two confused children who wanted to know why Daddy wasn't saying goodnight. I held them as they cried, made up some excuse about a work trip, and then lay awake all night staring at the ceiling and wondering what the hell I was going to do.
The next morning, after getting the kids to school with fake smiles and reassuring lies, I sat at my kitchen table and faced reality. I was 38 years old, with 8 years missing from my resume. My last job had been as a junior marketing coordinator, making $35,000 a year. I had no degree beyond a bachelor's in communications. My savings account had $2,000 in it, money I'd squirreled away from the household budget Robert controlled. Robert was right about one thing. Financially, I was in trouble. Without his income, I'd struggle to maintain our lifestyle, to give the kids the stability they needed, to avoid becoming exactly the struggling single mother society expected me to become. But he was wrong about everything else. My phone rang. Melissa, my best friend since college. I heard, she said without preamble, Facebook rumor mill, Robert left you for someone from work. Diana, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? No, I admitted. Mel, he said I'm worthless, that all I do is mother, that I have no value because I don't earn money. And the worst part? I don't know how to prove him wrong. What am I supposed to do? Who's going to hire a 38-year-old woman whose most recent work experience is making organic lunches and organizing playdates? Melissa was quiet for a moment. Did you ever actually think about what you do all day? Like, really think about it? I just told you. I take care of the kids, manage the house. Right. You manage, you budget, you negotiate with contractors and teachers and doctors. You create schedules and solve problems and handle crises. You're basically a household COO, Diana. The fact that you don't get a paycheck doesn't mean you lack skills. Screw potential employers. Diana, do you still write that blog, the parenting one you started a couple years ago? I'd almost forgotten about it. 2 years ago, during a particularly hard week of potty training Max and dealing with Lily's school struggles, I'd started a blog as a kind of therapy. Real talk parenting, I'd called it. Brutally honest essays about the reality of motherhood that nobody talked about. The exhaustion, the rage, the moments of wondering if you were completely failing, the guilt that came with every decision. I haven't posted in a few months, I admitted. Robert said it was a waste of time, that nobody cared about my mommy blog ramblings. Of course he did. But Diana, I read it. A lot of people read it. You had what, 5,000 followers? About that. That's 5,000 people who connected with what you wrote. 5,000 people who saw value in your experiences as a mother. Maybe Robert thinks motherhood is worthless, but thousands of strangers disagree. After we hung up, I pulled up my blog for the first time in months. The posts were raw, honest, sometimes funny, sometimes heartbreaking. I read through comments from readers thanking me for making them feel less alone, for validating their struggles, for giving them permission to be imperfect. And I realized something. Robert had spent 15 years telling me that what I did didn't matter, that motherhood had no value, that I was boring and worthless and had nothing to contribute. But he was wrong, and I was going to prove it. I opened my laptop and started writing, not about the divorce, not yet, but about what I'd learned in 8 years of full-time motherhood, about the skills nobody acknowledges, about the value of work that goes unpaid but is absolutely essential. The post was titled, "What's a Stay-at-Home Mom Worth? Let's do the math." I broke it down item by item. Personal chef, $50,000 a year. Housekeeper, $30,000 a year. Tutor, $40 an hour. Chauffeur, $40,000 a year. Personal assistant, $50,000 a year. Therapist or counselor, $100 an hour. By conservative estimates, if I charged market rates for the services I provided to my family, I'd be earning over $150,000 annually. But I didn't stop there. I wrote about the invisible labor, the emotional work of raising humans, the mental load of managing a household, the constant vigilance that parenting requires, the work that has no job description and no pay scale, but is perhaps the most important work in the world. I posted it at 2 a.m., too wired to sleep, too angry to care if anyone read it. By morning, it had gone viral. I woke up to my phone exploding with notifications, literally hundreds of them. Comments, shares, messages from strangers telling me their own stories of being undervalued as mothers, women tagging their husbands, men apologizing for never realizing what their wives actually did all day. The post had been shared over 50,000 times in less than 12 hours. "Mom, why are you smiling at your phone like that?" Lily asked over breakfast, her 8-year-old eyes curious and concerned. She'd been watching me carefully since Robert left, trying to understand what was happening to her family. "Just reading some nice messages," I said, not wanting to burden her with adult problems. But inside, I was reeling. 50,000 shares. That meant hundreds of thousands of people had read my words, had connected with them, had seen value in what I did, what millions of mothers did every single day. My phone rang. An unfamiliar number with a New York area code. "Is this Diana Fletcher, the woman who wrote What's a Stay-at-Home Mom Worth?" "My name is Amber Hayes. I run a digital media consulting firm, and I need to talk to you about your blog. Are you interested in monetizing it?"
Monetizing it? I'd never even considered that my blog could make money. It had been therapy, a creative outlet, a way to feel like I was more than just someone's wife and someone's mother. I don't know anything about monetizing a blog, I admitted. "That's okay. I do." Amber's confidence was infectious. "Diana, you've tapped into something huge. There are millions of mothers out there who feel exactly like you do, undervalued, invisible, taken for granted. Your voice resonates because you're saying what they're all thinking. We need to strike while this post is hot. Can we set up a call? I'd love to talk strategy." We spoke for 2 hours. Amber explained the world of influencer marketing, sponsored content, affiliate programs, digital products. She talked about building a brand, creating multiple revenue streams, turning my hobby blog into a legitimate business. "You could be making 6 figures within a year if we do this right," she said. "Maybe more. The parenting space is massive, and authentic voices like yours are rare. Most parenting influencers are selling some perfect version of motherhood. You're selling truth. That's invaluable." 6 figures. The irony wasn't lost on me. Robert had said I'd never earn real money because I was just a mom. Now someone was telling me I could build a business worth hundreds of thousands of dollars based entirely on my experiences as that very thing. "What would I need to do?" I asked, my mind racing with possibilities. "Write. Keep writing exactly what you've been writing. Honest, raw, real content about motherhood. post consistently, build your email list, engage with your audience. I'll handle the business side, finding sponsors, negotiating rates, building partnerships. We'd split revenue 70-30, with you getting 70. What do you say? What did I have to lose? My marriage was over, my financial security was gone, my sense of self-worth had been systematically destroyed. The only thing I had left was my voice and my experiences. Let's do it, I said. Over the next 3 months, while my divorce attorney battled with Roberts over custody arrangements and asset division, I threw myself into building my blog into a real business. I wrote every day, during nap time, after the kids went to bed, early in the morning before they woke up. I wrote about the divorce, about explaining separation to children, about rebuilding your identity after being just a wife for so long. The audience grew exponentially. 10,000 followers became 50,000, then 100,000, then 500,000. Women weren't just reading anymore. They were participating, sharing their stories, building a community around the shared experience of undervalued motherhood. Amber was brilliant at the business side. She landed sponsorship deals with major brands who wanted to reach my audience. She negotiated affiliate partnerships. She helped me create digital products, an ebook on household budgeting, a course on meal planning, a workbook for mothers going through divorce. By month 6, I'd made $75,000. By month 9, $150,000. By the end of the first year, my worthless blog about meaningless motherhood had generated over $400,000 in revenue. But the real transformation wasn't financial. It was personal. Every day I was proving Robert wrong. Every woman who commented, "You made me feel seen," or "You helped me realize I'm not alone," was validation that my work mattered, that motherhood mattered, that I mattered. The divorce was ugly. Robert fought for custody, claiming I was too emotionally unstable to be a primary parent. His lawyer painted me as a bitter ex-wife who was exposing our marriage troubles for internet fame. They tried to use my blog posts against me, claiming I was exposing our children to public scrutiny, that I was more focused on my little writing hobby than on being a mother. The irony was spectacular. Robert had left me because I was just a mother. Now he was arguing I wasn't mother enough. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia who'd been recommended by Melissa, destroyed that argument methodically. She presented my income statements showing I was now out-earning Robert. She brought in expert testimony about the therapeutic value of writing and community building. She had character witnesses, teachers, other parents, even some of my blog readers testify about my dedication to my children. "Mr. Fletcher," Patricia said during one particularly brutal deposition, "you stated that Ms. Fletcher's blog is exploitative and inappropriate. Yet you also stated in earlier testimony that you considered her writing a waste of time and meaningless. Which is it? Is her work significant enough to be harmful, or is it worthless? You can't have it both ways." Robert's face had turned red. "It's not about the writing. It's about her priorities. She's more concerned with her online audience than with our children." "Is that so? Miss Fletcher works from home, maintains a flexible schedule, and has never missed a single school event or doctor's appointment. Can you say the same, Mr. Fletcher?" The silence that followed was damning. Robert's career had always come first. Late meetings, weekend conferences, business trips. He'd missed countless school plays, parent-teacher conferences, birthday parties. But when he was doing it, it was providing for the family. When I built a career while still managing all the parenting responsibilities, it was neglecting the children. We settled on joint custody, with me having primary placement. Robert would see the kids every other weekend and one evening a week. He'd pay child support, not much, given that I was now out-earning him, but enough to contribute to their expenses. The day the divorce was finalized, I didn't cry. I felt free. like I'd been carrying a weight I hadn't even realized was there until it was lifted. Melissa took me out to celebrate. To new beginnings, she toasted, and to proving that bastard wrong in the most spectacular way possible.
I didn't do it to prove him wrong, I said, though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. I did it because I needed to prove to myself that I had value, that my work mattered. And now? Melissa asked. What's next for Diana Fletcher? CEO. CEO. I hadn't really thought of myself that way, but technically, that's what I was. I'd incorporated my blog into a proper LLC, Real Talk Parenting, Inc. I was the founder and chief executive. I had employees now. Amber, a content manager, a social media coordinator, a virtual assistant. I want to expand, I said, the idea forming as I spoke. The blog is great, but there's more we could do. A podcast, maybe a YouTube channel. I've been getting messages from women asking about coaching, about starting their own businesses, maybe workshops or retreats. The audience is there. We just need to meet them where they need us. You've really thought about this. I have a lot of time to think, between being a boring stay-at-home mom who contributes nothing. I smiled, the bitterness finally fading into something that felt like triumph. Over the next 2 years, Real Talk Parenting grew from a blog into a multimedia company. The podcast launched and immediately hit the top 100 in the parenting category. The YouTube channel exploded with videos about everything from divorce survival to meal planning for picky eaters to reclaiming your identity after years of being just a mom. But the real game changer came when I launched the Real Talk Parenting app, a platform where mothers could connect, share resources, access my content, and support each other through the challenges of raising children. We charged $9.99 a month for premium membership, and within 6 months, we had 200,000 paying subscribers. Do the math on that. $9.99 times 200,000 times 12 months. Nearly $24 million in annual recurring revenue from subscription fees alone, before accounting for advertising, sponsorships, and product sales. My worthless motherhood blog had become a multi-million-dollar company. I moved out of the house Robert and I had shared. Too many memories, too much pain, and bought a beautiful condo downtown with a view of Lake Michigan. The kids loved it. They had their own rooms, decorated exactly how they wanted. We were closer to their school, to museums, to parks. We built a new life, one where their mother wasn't some diminished version of herself, but a woman building something meaningful. Lily, now 11, had become fiercely proud of what I did. My mom helps other moms. She has a company and everything, she'd tell her friends. Max, 9, was just happy that I was happy. You smile more now, Mom. Before, when Dad lived with us, you didn't smile as much. Kids see everything. They know everything. And they were watching me model what it looked like to rebuild yourself after someone tries to tear you down. I'd largely stayed out of Robert's life. We had a cordial, co-parenting relationship, polite texts about pickup times, brief conversations at school events, nothing more. I knew he'd moved in with Claire. I knew he was still at the same marketing firm, climbing the same corporate ladder he thought was so much more important than what I did. I didn't know, or particularly care, how he felt about my success. He'd made his choices. He'd said his piece. What he thought of me now was irrelevant, until the day his email appeared in my inbox. The subject line read, "Potential opportunity." I almost deleted it without reading it, but curiosity won out. Diana, I hope this message finds you well. I've been following the success of Real Talk Parenting with great interest. What you've built is truly impressive. The growth trajectory, the audience engagement, the revenue streams, it's exactly the kind of innovative digital brand that's defining modern media. I'm reaching out because I'm currently exploring new career opportunities. As you may know, I have extensive experience in marketing and brand development. I've spent the last 18 years building and launching successful campaigns for major corporations. I think there could be a real synergy between my expertise and Real Talk Parenting's growth potential. I'd love to discuss the possibility of joining your team in a leadership capacity, perhaps as Chief Marketing Officer or VP of Brand Strategy. I believe I could help take the company to the next level. Would you be open to a conversation? I'm happy to send over my resume and discuss how I could contribute to Real Talk Parenting's continued success. Best regards, Robert Fletcher. I read it 3 times, each time feeling a different emotion. First, shock, then disbelief, then something that felt dangerously close to rage. He was asking me for a job. Robert Fletcher, the man who told me I was worthless, that my motherhood blog was a waste of time, that I had no marketable skills or valuable contributions. That man was now asking to work for the company I'd built from that very meaningless work. Have you ever had someone who destroyed you crawling back, asking for help? Have you ever had the person who said you'd never amount to anything ask to benefit from everything you've accomplished despite their cruelty? What would you do in that moment? I picked up my phone and called Amber. "You're not going to believe this," I said. "Robert just asked me for a job." Amber's laugh was sharp and delighted. "Oh my God, please tell me you're going to interview him. Please tell me you're going to make him sit across from you and pitch himself. Please tell me you're going to let him squirm." I shouldn't, right? I should just ignore it. Send a polite no thank you and move on with my life. You absolutely should not do that. Amber's voice turned serious. "Diana, do you remember what you said to me 3 years ago when we first talked? You said you wanted to prove that motherhood had value, that the work you did mattered. Well, here's your chance. Not to be vindictive, though that would be justified, but to show him exactly what he failed to see, to make him acknowledge out loud that you built something extraordinary from the thing he said was worthless." She was right. This wasn't about revenge, though that was tempting. This was about closure, about standing face to face with the man who'd tried to destroy my self-worth and showing him exactly who I'd become. "Set up the interview," I said. "Let's see what Robert Fletcher thinks he can offer Real Talk Parenting." Amber scheduled it for the following week at our downtown office, a sleek, modern space in a high-rise with a view that rivaled my condos. I had a conference room, a full staff, a company that bore my name and vision. I had everything Robert said I'd never achieve. And in 7 days, he was going to sit across from me and ask for a job. I spent that week preparing, not just researching what questions to ask or what I'd say, but preparing myself emotionally for seeing him again. The man who'd shared my bed for 15 years, the father of my children, the person who'd known me better than anyone and had used that knowledge to wound me in the deepest possible way. I wanted to face him from a position of strength, not as the broken, desperate woman he'd left behind, but as the CEO I'd become. The night before the interview, Lily found me in my home office, going over my notes. "Is that about Dad?" she asked, perceptive as always. I had told the kids that their father had reached out about a job opportunity. They deserved honesty, even when it was complicated. Yes, sweetheart. Are you going to hire him? Her voice was carefully neutral, but I could hear the worry underneath. These were her parents. Whatever happened tomorrow would affect her. I don't know yet, I admitted. I need to hear what he has to say, what he thinks he can bring to the company, and then I'll make a decision based on what's best for the business and for our family. Mom, Lily climbed onto the chair beside me. You know how sometimes at school people are mean to me and then later they want to be my friend because I have something they want?
Yes. I always say no. Because real friends don't treat you badly and then pretend it didn't happen just because now you have something they need. She looked at me with 11-year-old wisdom that was far beyond her years. I think you should remember that tomorrow. I pulled her into a hug, wondering when my daughter had become so wise. Thank you, baby. I will. The next morning, I dressed in my power suit, the one I'd bought specifically for investor meetings and major negotiations. Navy blue, perfectly tailored, paired with heels that made me 3 inches taller. I styled my hair sleek and professional. I looked like exactly what I was, a successful CEO. Robert arrived at 10 a.m. sharp. I watched on the security camera as he walked through our lobby, taking in the logo on the wall, the modern furniture, the bustling staff. His expression was complicated. Impressed, maybe? And something else. Something that looked like regret. My assistant, Jennifer, escorted him to the conference room where I was waiting. When he walked in, his eyes met mine, and I saw it, the full realization of what I'd become. This wasn't the exhausted, diminished woman he'd left. This was someone new, someone he didn't recognize. "Hello, Robert," I said, my voice professional and calm. "Thank you for coming in. Please, have a seat." He sat across from me, and for the first time in 3 years, we were face to face. And this time, I was the one in power. "So," I said, folding my hands on the table, "tell me why you think you'd be a good fit for Real Talk Parenting." Robert cleared his throat, and I could see him trying to slip into his professional persona, the confident marketing executive who'd climbed corporate ladders for 2 decades. But there was something different in his eyes. Uncertainty. Maybe even fear. "Well," he began, straightening his tie, "as I mentioned in my email, I have 18 years of marketing experience, including brand development, digital strategy, and I've read your resume, Robert. I'm familiar with your qualifications. What I'm asking is why you think those qualifications would be valuable specifically to Real Talk Parenting. What do you understand about our brand, our mission, our audience?" He paused, recalibrating. This wasn't going to be the easy pitch he probably expected. Real Talk Parenting has achieved remarkable growth in a short time. Your audience engagement is exceptional, but I think there's significant untapped potential in terms of brand partnerships, corporate sponsorships, and market expansion. With my background, I could help. "Help me?" I leaned back in my chair, studying him. "Robert, 3 years ago, you told me that what I was doing was worthless, that my mommy blog was a waste of time, that I had no marketable skills. Do you remember saying that?" The color drained from his face. "Diana, that was during a difficult time. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was wrong." "You were wrong," I agreed. "But here's what I need to understand before we go any further. Do you actually believe you are wrong? Or do you just see now that my worthless work has become profitable and suddenly it's worth your attention?" Have you ever watched someone realize they're trapped by their own past words? That's where Robert was,
caught between honesty and desperation. I was absolutely wrong, he said. And for the first time, his voice sounded genuine rather than rehearsed. Diana, what you've built here is extraordinary. And not just financially, though that's impressive. You've created something that matters to people, that helps them. I didn't see that before. I didn't see a lot of things. Like what? I pressed, because I needed to hear this. Not for revenge, though that was a pleasant side effect, but because after 3 years of rebuilding myself from the rubble of our marriage, I deserved to hear him acknowledge what he'd done. Robert looked down at his hands. I was absolutely wrong, he said. I didn't see that motherhood was work, real work that required intelligence, skill, dedication. I didn't see that managing a household was complex and demanding. I didn't see that you were sacrificing your career ambitions to support mine. And most of all, he finally met my eyes. I didn't see that you were capable of this, of building something from nothing, of being a CEO. I underestimated you completely, and that's my biggest regret. The words should have felt like vindication, and they did, partially, but they also felt hollow. Because where had this insight been 3 years ago? Where had this recognition been when I was drowning in laundry and meal planning and endless, invisible labor? Your regret is noted, I said coolly. But let's be clear about something, Robert. This company was built on the experiences and insights I gained during those years you said I was wasting. Every blog post, every piece of content, every connection with our audience, it all comes from my time as a stay-at-home mother. The thing you said was worthless is literally the foundation of everything I've created. So when you say you want to help me take the company to the next level, what you're really saying is you want to profit from the very work you once mocked. That's not, he started, then stopped, because I was right, and we both knew it. Let me tell you what I see, I continued, my voice steady and professional. I see a man who's probably struggling in his current position. The marketing industry has changed dramatically in the last 3 years. Digital strategy, influencer partnerships, authentic brand building, these require understanding audiences on a deep, emotional level. And that was never your strength, was it? You were good at corporate campaigns, at traditional marketing, but the world has moved on. So you're looking at what I've built, a company that's succeeding in exactly the space where you're floundering, and you think your traditional experience can add value here. Robert's jaw clenched. I'd hit a nerve. Good. Am I close? I asked. I've had some challenges in my current role, he admitted stiffly. The industry is changing. I thought my experience would be enough, but you're right. Audience authenticity matters more now than traditional metrics. But Diana, that's exactly why I could be valuable to you. I know what doesn't work. I know the mistakes companies make when they try to manufacture connection instead of building it genuinely. I could help you avoid those pitfalls. Except I haven't made those mistakes, I pointed out. Real talk parenting has grown organically because it's authentic, because it comes from real experience, because I'm not trying to sell motherhood, I'm sharing it, warts and all. What would your expertise add to that? He had no answer. Because the truth was, he couldn't add anything I didn't already have. His skills were outdated. His understanding of my audience was non-existent. And his presence in my company would be a daily reminder of the man who'd tried to destroy me. The silence stretched between us, heavy with history and hurt. Why did you really come here, Robert? And I want the truth, not the professional pitch. The real reason. He took a breath, and when he spoke, his voice was quieter. Because I made the biggest mistake of my life when I left you. Because I've watched from the sidelines as you built something incredible while I stayed stagnant. Because Claire and I broke up 6 months ago and I'm alone. And every day I see what I threw away. And because... He paused. Because I wanted to see if there was any chance you'd let me back into your life, even in a professional capacity, even just to be near you again. There it was, the truth beneath the resume and the practice pitch. He didn't want a job. He wanted forgiveness, or maybe redemption, or maybe just relief from the consequences of his own choices. Robert, I said gently, but firmly, 3 years ago, you looked at me and saw someone worthless, someone who contributed nothing, someone boring and meaningless. And that tells me everything I need to know about you. Not about me. I've proven what I'm capable of, but about you. You're someone who measures worth by income, who sees value only in what can be quantified on a spreadsheet, who believes that raising children, managing a home, supporting a family, that these things are meaningless because they don't come with a paycheck. I don't believe that anymore. You believe it now because you proved me wrong. But what happens when things get hard again? When someone in your life doesn't meet your standards of productivity? Will you see their value then? Or will you revert to measuring worth by dollar signs? I stood, signaling the interview was over. I'm not going to hire you, Robert. Not because I'm vindictive, though I'd be justified if I were, but because you're not a good fit for this company. Real talk parenting was built on valuing the work the society dismisses, on recognizing that motherhood, caregiving, emotional labor, these things matter, even when they're not profitable. You spent 15 years of marriage proving you don't really believe that. I don't trust that you've changed. Robert stood as well, his face a mixture of disappointment and resignation. I understand. And Diana, for what it's worth, I am sorry. I was wrong about you. About everything. I know you are, I said. But sorry doesn't undo 3 years of rebuilding my life. Sorry doesn't erase the message you sent to our children about what makes someone valuable. Sorry is just a word, Robert. It doesn't change anything. I walked him to the door myself. As he was leaving, he turned back one more time. You've become someone amazing, he said quietly. I'm proud of you. I know I have no right to say that, but I am. Thank you, I replied, because I could afford to be gracious now. I hope you find what you're looking for, Robert. Just not here. After he left, I stood at my office window, looking out over the city. 3 years ago, I'd been sitting at my kitchen table, broken and lost, wondering if Robert was right about me, if I really was worthless, if motherhood really had destroyed whatever potential I had once had. Now I was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. I had employees who depended on me. I had an audience of millions who trusted me. I had children who were proud of me. I had rebuilt myself into someone I barely recognized, someone stronger, more confident, more capable than the woman I'd been before. My phone buzzed. A text from Lily. How did it go with Dad? I smiled, typing back. I'll tell you when I get home. But the short version? I remembered what you told me about fake friends. Thank you for the wisdom, kiddo. Her response was immediate. Did you say no? I said no. Good. You're better than him, Mom. You always were. That evening, I took the kids out for ice cream. We sat outside on a warm spring evening, and they asked questions about the interview, about what their father had wanted, about why I'd said no. Sometimes, I explained, trying to find words they'd understand, people don't value what you do until it benefits them. Your dad didn't think my work as a mother was important. He thought because I didn't get a paycheck, what I did didn't matter. But now that my work has become successful, suddenly he sees value in it. Does that make sense? Max, with 9-year-old clarity, said, So he only liked your work when it made money? That's dumb. Your work was always good. Exactly, I said, pulling him close. My work was always valuable. I just had to learn to see that value myself, even when other people didn't. Are you sad Dad won't work with you? Lily asked. No, sweetheart. I'm relieved, because working with someone who once told you you're worthless, even if they apologize, would mean constantly proving yourself. And I'm done proving myself to people who should have believed in me all along. That night, after the kids were in bed, I opened my laptop and did something I hadn't done in months. I wrote a blog post. Not about the interview, that was private, between Robert and me, but about the journey, about the woman I'd been 3 years ago and the woman I'd become. I titled it, What Happens When You Stop Measuring Your Worth by Someone Else's Standards. I wrote about being told you're worthless and choosing to believe differently, about building something from nothing because you had no other choice, about discovering that the work society dismisses, motherhood, caregiving, emotional labor, contains skills that are desperately needed in the business world. Empathy, organization, crisis management, multitasking, emotional intelligence. I wrote about my ex-husband asking for a job and why I'd said no. Not because I was cruel, but because I'd learned that you can't build something authentic by including people who don't share your values. That success means nothing if you compromise your principles to achieve it. And I wrote about what I wanted for my children, for Lily and Max and all the children of my readers. I wanted them to grow up knowing that their worth wasn't determined by their productivity, that caring for others was valuable work, that you could measure success in relationships, in impact, in lives touched, not just in dollars earned.
He's struggling, Claire told me over lattes. Lost his job, can't find another one in his field. I think he's finally realizing that the world has changed, and he hasn't changed with it. I felt a flicker of sympathy, but only a flicker, because Robert's struggles weren't my responsibility. I had spent enough years trying to support someone who never appreciated it. I hope he figures it out, I said honestly. For the kids' sake, if nothing else. But that's his journey now, not mine. Real Talk Parenting continued to grow. We launched a foundation providing grants to single mothers starting their own businesses. We created a mentorship program connecting experienced entrepreneurs with women re-entering the workforce after years at home. We partnered with major corporations to advocate for paid parental leave and recognition of caregiving as valuable work experience. My company wasn't just successful, it was making a difference. And every day, I got messages from women telling me I'd changed their lives, that I'd helped them see their own worth, that I'd given them permission to value themselves, even when society, or their partners, didn't. That was worth more than any revenge could ever be. So here's what I want to ask you. Have you ever been told that what you do doesn't matter? That your work, whether it's parenting, caregiving, homemaking, or any other undervalued labor, is meaningless because it doesn't come with a paycheck? How did that feel? And more importantly, what did you do about it? Did you internalize that message and believe you were worthless? Or did you fight back and prove that your work has value beyond dollars and cents? Here's the harder question. If the person who devalued you came back into your life, asking for help, asking to benefit from the success you built after they left, what would you do? Would you be gracious and give them a second chance? Or would you protect your peace and say no? I chose to say no, not because I'm cruel, but because I learned that you can't build something authentic by including people who don't respect your foundation. That forgiveness doesn't mean giving someone access to your life again, that you can wish someone well from a distance without letting them back in. But maybe you'd choose differently. Maybe you believe in second chances more than I do. Maybe you think people can truly change and that excluding them is petty rather than protective. So tell me in the comments, what's your story? Have you ever been undervalued by someone you loved? Have you ever had to rebuild yourself after someone tried to tear you down? And if you found success after that kind of betrayal, what did it feel like? Was it sweet? Bittersweet? Hollow?
And here's what I really want to know. What keeps you going when someone tells you that you're not enough? Where do you find your worth when the world or the people in your life refuse to see it? What motivates you to prove them wrong, or better yet, to stop caring about proving anything at all? Because here's what I've learned. The greatest success isn't making more money than your ex-husband. It isn't building a multi-million-dollar company. It's waking up every morning and knowing your worth isn't determined by anyone else's opinion. It's looking in the mirror and seeing someone valuable, capable, and strong, regardless of what anyone else thinks. That's the real victory. Everything else is just extra. Share your story below. Let's build a community of people who refuse to accept someone else's diminished version of who we are. Let's celebrate the work that goes unrecognized, the strength that goes unnoticed, and the value that exists whether or not anyone else sees it. What's your justamom story? And how did you turn it into your greatest strength?